Now, every year, more than 1.3 million people die across the world as a result of road traffic crashes. Distraction caused by mobile phones is a growing concern.
Now, over the last couple of months, you might have already heard that there are now cameras on the road, just like this AccuSensor, that can actually catch you on your mobile phone using infrared. Now, Owen, have you heard about these cameras before? Because I certainly haven't.
I haven't, no, I didn't know anything about it, but this camera's been brought down here today to show us how it works and for a media launch, so we thought we'd bring you along and we can show you exactly how this thing works. So come and have a look at this. Like I said, this is all new to me as well, so I'm going to try and tell you what the guys have told me already this morning. So if you look up the top there, you'll see there's two cameras. One takes a long-range shot of the car, which shows the number plate, and the second camera looks straight down into the cab and can see whether you're either not wearing a seatbelt or you're using your mobile phone.
Now, Owen, while we were having a look at this camera earlier, they mentioned that that box up there is actually responsible for sending all of the photos of people on their phones to Australia. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so what the guys have said is that you've got two cameras up on the other side of the sticky crane thing. One takes a long-range image of the vehicle that shows the number plate, and the second camera looks straight down into the cab and it's looking for maybe people not wearing a seatbelt or use of mobile phones. So then you've got the grey box on the other end, and that beams the images up into a cloud somewhere, which then goes to Australia. And the team over in Australia will look at it and they'll make a decision on whether it's a certain use of the mobile phone and you can clearly see the phone being used, or whether it's a maybe use, and then they'll send it back to us, and we'll look at it and see whether it's fit for prosecution or how we're going to deal with it.
Now, Owen, in advance to us coming and checking out this camera over here, I did actually put a post up on Instagram asking the viewers if they had any questions. And believe me, they came flooding in.
I'm sure they did.
Would you be happy to address some of these in today's video?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's probably unlikely I'll know the answer, but we can talk to the guys in the van and we can get a definitive answer from them.
So, Owen, one question I've got for you immediately is, are these cameras going to be attached to vans, or are they going to be attached to bridges all over the motorways, all over the UK?
Okay, so at the moment it's in a trial period for Devon and Cornwall Police down here, and it's going to be just on the van. And during the trial period it will also be used for enforcement as well. However, after the trial period, if we choose to use the technology, again, yes, they can be at fixed sites or they can be in the van as well.
Now here's a great one for you, Owen. What do these cameras look like?
That.
Exactly,
Black
I thought
boxes,
so.
yeah.
Now, Owen, this next question I do really like, because I've actually asked you this off camera. Now, what is the difference, effectively, between a phone being mounted on your dashboard and an in-car entertainment system such as Apple CarPlay?
So what you've got to think about is the two different offences, and you've got the specific offence of using the mobile phone whilst driving, and then you've got the other offence of not being in proper control of the vehicle. So if you are concentrating on your Apple CarPlay and you're pressing buttons on there and you were to have a collision or you're doing something in that car, then you've got that offence of not being in proper control of the vehicle. But the mobile phone law is specific to the use of the mobile data device.
Are they currently in use? And just like regular speed cameras, do they need to give you pre-warning?
No, we don't need to give a pre-warning, and we don't need to do that with the safety cameras either. So MPCC say, you know, in an ideal world you could put out the warning signs, but we don't actually need to do it. There's nothing in law that says that we need to do it. So similar thing with these. You know, this, like we said, it is on trial down here for us to see how good the technology is, but no, there is no requirement to put out any signs to say that it's here.
Now, Owen, there's been a good question come in regarding points and fines. How do these work when it comes to that?
So once we get the image back, we will look at it and then we will send out the paperwork to the register keeper of the vehicle, and that requires them to provide the details of the driver. Exactly the same as we would with the notice of intended prosecution. You have to give those details. If you don't, then you commit another offence. So once we've got the details of the driver, then they will be issued with however we're going to go with it, but it is generally a 6 points offence and a £200 fine. So think about it, if you're a young driver, you're in your first 2 years of your probationary period, that's 6 points for just that one offence, and that's it, you're out the game. So you've wasted all that money to get you through that test. You've got to start all over again. So honestly, it's really not worth it. Don't use that phone.
So it started off initially with me having an interest, so to speak, in the modified car scene or the car community. And I think off the back of that, you see quite a lot of dangerous driving. Whether I was involved is besides the question, but at the same time, I think having met Owen and now my link up with the police, it's more educating people on social media about the benefits of road safety and keeping safe, so that, you know, ultimately when people leave for work in the morning, they can get back safe to their families, and hopefully, if we're lucky, they can learn something off the back of watching our videos. Seatbelts is obviously a huge problem, naturally. I mean, that's ultimately one of the biggest safety devices that's ever been invented when it comes to cars. But now with mobile phones, it's such a problem, especially youngsters now. They're so attached to their mobile phones. And what it does is it actually triggers a dopamine release in your brain. So as soon as you receive a notification, it's like a drug, isn't it? It's a craving. You want to check it. And whether you're driving or whether you're not driving, that doesn't take away from the fact that you want to find out what your girlfriend, your mum, your friend has said. So I think it's all about finding a way around the incessant need to jump on your mobile phone when driving and check what this person has said. So instead use things like Apple CarPlay, dictaphone, Siri, for example. These are all modern ways that you can still use your device, but without the need of touching it. Right, Andrew, before you head off, of course, I wanted to introduce you to the channel. You are a broadcast journalist for
Greatest Hits Radio in Devon and Somerset. So obviously it's not plugged in at the moment because we've just done our interview.
So your team is obviously interested in the goings-on of this infrared camera detecting mobile phone usage.
I'm really struck by this. So we had a news planning meeting in the morning, and I said, well, Devon and Cornwall Police are apparently leading the way with special technology that can catch drivers, you know, without a seatbelt. And the first question was, well, how many people don't wear a seatbelt? Most of us get alarms nowadays.
Yeah.
And then I was expecting some tiny little camera, perhaps, you know, like the Captain Gatsay ones. And then I drive up and you see this giant,
this monstrosity,
this huge thing, and you think, well, actually, this is going to work. I mean, there's no hiding from this, is there? But at the same time, you probably wouldn't notice that if it's on a bridge or something, or on a gantry. You could hide that. So I think it's quite a big deterrent. And actually looking at some of the pictures, they're pretty detailed.
No, they really are.
There's no, that photo's blurry, I wasn't looking at a phone, honestly, Gov. I think it's pretty clear if you were or not.
Absolutely. Well, I went in there earlier and looked at some of the pictures that they were getting, and although we can't include them on the camera or today's video, it really is scarily clear. So no, I would definitely suggest keeping off your mobile phone, making sure your seatbelt's on. But you're right in saying most people have an annoying sound, but a lot of the older cars don't have them. So hopefully it does its job. But thank you very much for interviewing me on your radio channel. Of course, make sure you guys go and listen if you'd like to hear what I had to say. But hopefully we see you again next time. But for now, thank you very much for coming around. It's nice to meet you properly and actually get you on the video.
I think it's important to add that young people now see the mobile phone as an extension of their arm, and we kind of get that people want to have that mobile phone with them. But when you're driving, just please put it away, put it in the glove box, turn it off, or use the in-car technology that is available through maybe Apple CarPlay or the Android equivalent or anything else within the car, just to stop you using that mobile phone. Because any kind of distraction, that momentary distraction, could be the difference between maybe killing somebody or not, or being involved in that collision. And we see far too many collisions that are ultimately avoidable, and it's just through things like distraction, use of the mobile phone, or not wearing a seatbelt.
Owen, so I've had to steal you away from all of those hungry journalists that have rocked up. Who have we got? We've got ITV, we've got some radio channels and BBC, is that correct?
Yeah, we've got loads. Yeah, they've had me down there for a good half an hour or so, haven't they? Asking me some very difficult questions. And you've brought me up here onto this nice bank. But yeah, as you can see behind me, we've got all the journalists here, and that's because this technology is so new that we're just releasing it to the press as well. So, you know, it's a first for you as well. There is nothing underhand here. We're telling everybody that this technology exists and that we're going to use it. But the idea is just to stop people using their mobile phones, because that's what's going to stop people crashing on the road. It's not about the giving tickets, because if people follow the rules and they don't use their mobile phone, we don't need to give a ticket. And we're just hoping that using this kind of stuff will stop you doing it. So please don't be tempted, stick the phone away, turn it off, put it in the glove box, put it somewhere where you're not tempted. And then nobody gets a ticket, everyone's happy. So the reason we're having to use this technology is because the use of mobile phones is still really bad on our roads, and I'm sure everybody's seen the car that swerves in the lanes on the motorway, or the person who's looking down texting when they're not looking where they're going. So we're seeing a whole load of crashes and collisions that are very much avoidable, but it's just that people are still using their mobile phones when they're driving. Similarly, people not wearing a seatbelt. So they're involved in a collision and their injuries are fatal or severe unnecessarily because they're not wearing that seatbelt. And we've had people ejected from the cars and all sorts and suffered horrific injuries just because they're not wearing their seatbelt. So ultimately it's the driver's decision as to whether they're going to use that mobile phone and wear their seatbelt. And this technology is just helping us, you know, provide that, maybe that fear of getting caught, so that people are encouraged to put the phone away, put it in the dashboard, turn it off and put their seatbelt on. And that's just going to keep people safe on the roads.
کەناڵی BK4 لە خەمی هەمووان کۆکەرەوەی کوردان لە تاراوگا بەگشتی لە ئەوروپا و بەریتانیا کەناڵی BK4